you're watching this.
Good morning.
Alright, so, welcome back to our channel. Welcome if you're new. My name is Asia, and I have
My name's Elizabeth.
my best friend and partner in crime, and this is the Vlogs in Progress channel. If you are subscribed, thank you for returning. And if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Go ahead and click the button below. And if you end up liking our video, thumbs it up. We love that. But if you are new here, we just film weekly videos, except for last week. We'll talk about that. But we film weekly videos and we chat on different topics. Sometimes we have book club talks once a month. Because the video is going to be. But then other times we just like different topics we chat about. So if you like that, then you'll like our channel. Like I said, today is going to be like a book club talk. We pick one book a month and we read it together. And then we come and discuss it. This past month I picked the book. And Elizabeth, you want to show them what it was?
It's called The Ep.9.
This book right here. Yes. And the reason for this is because I personally suffer from worrying and anxiety and just all that kind of stuff. So it appealed to me in the bookstore. Like, ooh, I need to calm down. Let's get that one. So I picked that one, and we read it this past month. And I think today's a really good example of not every book you read you're gonna love.
Yeah.
We were texting each other this month and we're like, I don't know if I like this book particularly.
It has a lot of good points.
Like,
and information.
it does have really good points. Yes, it does have really good points. But I feel like it could have been shortened by like half at least.
There was some of it where it just felt a bit repetitive and like you were repeating the same things, and I'd find myself just like skimming the book, where it's well written and it has a lot of good ideas. But it's just, and I didn't get pulled into it like I have other books.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like I got the main, point out of it without having to read the whole thing, which sounds kind of bad. But
No.
the style of writing, if you're curious, is kind of like, it's very conversational. The lady is very, that wrote it, she swears a lot in it, so that's up if you're going to read that. But she seems very, like, sarcastic and kind of likes to make jokes a lot, so it feels very, I don't know, like she tries to be very relatable, I feel like.
Yeah.
And at times, I felt like it was too much. Like, I was like, okay, get to your point. Would you agree?
Yeah, and some of that is just, I think me and you both have that personality of let's get to the point. And there's just like a lot of examples, and like she really goes over her points with a lot of like stories or metaphors. And at one point, I'm one of those where I'm like, okay, you told me, I get it. I'm gonna move on to the next thing, and I'm like, I don't need this many examples. Which there's nothing wrong if you do or if you like that type.
Yeah, I feel like some people, if you really like listening to, because I mean, there's this whole like genre of like YouTube channels that just do story times, and if you are into just listening to people's stories, then I feel like you'll like this. It does have some pretty valuable information. She's written a few other books also that kind of have similar themes.
Yeah.
And she references them throughout the book. So I feel like if you liked her previous books, you'll like this one. But I almost felt like in it she was promoting the other books a lot too, and I'm like, okay, like if I want to read those, like I'll seek them out. But also, if you're saying, oh, I mentioned it in this book, why am I reading this one too, kind of thing.
Yeah, there was just times when like some of the stories I just personally couldn't relate to as much.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It was like she'd tell a story and you'd like, that's a good story, but like for me there was no like, ooh, I relate to that, or it's similar to something I've gone through.
Yeah. So that's kind of our initial thoughts and opinions. You want to talk about like our big takeaways from it, because we did get some takeaways from it.
Yeah, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Why don't you go first?
I did like how she came up with like this category system of like potential things and like what's highly unlikely, possibly not likely, likely, high likely, inevitable. So you can kind of like figure out where to characterize it and prioritize it on your worry scale, and like things like that.
I liked that too. Because, and she talks about in there too, like you said, like the categories. There's that category scale, and then there's the things that have happened in the past, are happening right now, or may or may not happen in the future. So I think kind of using those two things to figure out, okay, like how much worry should I devote to this? How much brain space, how much energy should I devote to it? I think it's pretty helpful.
Yeah,
Because
here's
there's
like,
definitely some things I realize I worry about, but like.
I found like 3 lines that or 3 statements from the book that I did underline and like. It was same objective S storm, different subjective experience. And then another one was, therefore, different type of storm categories are based not on how severe they might be, but simply how likely they are to actually hit you. And then she also talks about how you cannot compare something that you're experiencing with something that someone else is experiencing, because you're going to deal with it differently, it's going to hit you differently, and it might trigger something from another experience more and make you feel it more deeply than someone else would.
Yes, I really took that to heart, because I feel like a lot of the times, and I don't think I do this, but when I reach out to other people about maybe things that I'm worrying about, I feel like with each other, like if I tell Elizabeth something like, oh, this is bothering me, she's not going to say like, well, it's not as bad as what I have going on, like, but I feel like a lot of the times other people will be like, oh, you shouldn't worry about that because this thing I have is like way worse, and so you should be thankful it's just not as bad as mine.
Yeah.
So I think knowing that anything you worry about is valid, you know, you just have to figure out, you know, how much you're going to
allow it to affect.
Allow it to affect you, but know that it's not more or less than anybody else's. I think that's really important. Just when you're interacting with people, these days, interacting with people is so complicated. And I think everybody's kind of worried more about their own things and not so much about, you know, interpersonal relationships with others. And we've become very self-centered. So I think that kind of helps you step back and say, okay, like, I'm going through this, but that doesn't mean that I can't help somebody else or I can't reach out to somebody else. I think it's important.
And it's not like a heavy or hard to read book either. Because
no,
like,
it's not. It's
I read it while I was getting my oil
quick.
changed at one point.
Yeah, I did like that. Like, it wasn't heavy or hard to understand. Like, it's very digestible, and it's not like overcomplicating things. It is very simplified. I did like how she talked about how you have almost like, I don't know what to call it, basically like a bank or a fund system,
Yeah.
for how much time and energy you can dedicate to things. And that stuff doesn't, you know, replenish. Like, you think about money in the bank. If you go out and spend money on groceries or power, like, you can't just say, oh, I ran out of money, but it's going to come back so I can go out with my friends. And she says, you know, time, we all have the same amount of time in the day. We only have so much energy to devote to certain things. So you got to be very selective on how you spend your funds. I thought that was really powerful to think about, because I feel like a lot of the times you spend so much energy worrying about maybe things that haven't even happened, and then you got stuff you need to worry about that, you know, like, I need to worry about paying my bills, but I'm so freaked out about what might happen. I only got so much energy. I need to devote to the things that are most important.
Yeah.
So that was probably the biggest takeaway from me. in the book is how am I spending my funds, my freak out funds, on how much I freak out over things.
Well, I know what my random bookmark was for this book.
Yeah.
So it's just like a random piece of paper from like one of those small little like notebook things. And it must have been while I think I was on like a phone call or something at work, and I had Hamilton the musical song stuck in my head. And like one of the lines is, "This is not a challenge." So I think that was about whatever the phone call was about. And there was "Just watch it all burn," which is the burn song in Hamilton. And then "When the time comes, explain to the children," which is from the song. So it was just like one of those funny ones where I was looking and trying to find where I was or what I underlined. I was like, what did I write on this piece of paper during a meeting? Obviously, it wasn't too important if I took it out for a bookmark.
Like that. I know. I love finding like all the papers and stuff I've jotted down, and I'm like, what was I thinking in this moment? Or I can tell like when I wrote it, because it's like I have different eras of the types of doodles I would do. I'm a doodler. Are you like a writing random things, or do you like do little doodles?
Mine's usually just like random thoughts that come into my head. Usually it's like song lyric lines that like a song stuck in my head, and usually it's just like one little part, and I write it down, and then I get distracted and I write something else down. And sometimes half of it is like a grocery list or a to-do list, or who knows.
Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, so, and this is going to be shorter because, like I said, we didn't have too much to take away. Like, I feel like we took like main points, but there was a lot of filler in this book, I feel like. So, do you have anything else you want to talk about or share or whatever?
Want me to announce our next book?
Yes, so we're wrapping up October. It was for October. Now, what are we going to remember? It's Elizabeth's pick. Could we switch off?
Yes, and this is one of my favorite books. It's Sense and Sensibility by Jane Austen. I thought since the last two times we did kind of more like self-development, a little bit heavier nonfiction books, it was time to take a break and enjoy a little story. Especially with November, where it's going to be busy and hectic with Thanksgiving and just getting all your plans ready. So this is like a nice little break from reality.
Yeah. And is it like, how many pages is your, well, I know there's different versions, but is it like a longer story or?
Obviously, you can tell it's my favorite book if you look based off of the spine and the condition mine's in for Asia to see.
Do you have random bookmarks in there or artifacts?
Not this one.
Ooh.
I will say, if you haven't read any of the Jane Austens, my recommendation is always to like, it's going to sound weird, but I'd watch the movie first because it helps you understand some of the language. This one is 353 pages. And it kind of just, if you watch the movies or like the BBC mini series for them, it kind of just gives you like a way to picture the scenery and the dresses and kind of understand some of it that you might not pick up while you're reading or from the language that she uses.
Okay, because I'm still trying to get the book. I went to the bookstore, I went to a few places and I couldn't find it, so I'm gonna have to order it. So it hasn't come in yet, but that kind of made me a little bit nervous. I was like, okay, like what kind of language is it gonna have? Because like as a reader, I'm pretty good at comprehending things, but I just want to make sure how hard am I gonna have to.
You could also try like downloading like a Kindle edition.
Oh yeah. I like forget that that's a thing. I'm such a hard copy book person.
Me too.
I forget that ebooks exist.
Yeah, no, but this is like my top favorite book. I just love it. It's about two sisters. So it's all about family.
It has Pride and Prejudice. Yeah, Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Pride and Prejudice is my second favorite. I finished that. I almost made you read that one, but I've already reread it this year, like a month ago.
Yeah, That's what all the stores have. They all have Pride and Prejudice, but they don't have any other Jane Austen books. I'm like,
If I remember
okay,
correctly, this
come
is
on
the
now.
first one she had published. And it's also, I think, her longest one. Sorry.
No, you're good. So we have that one for November, and then for December, I'm also trying to find us like a happy holiday story. So that's in the works also. And then once New Year's rolls around, we'll have some more self-development because
I've already picked our New Year's book.
yeah, she's already picked it. So, at least we're thinking ahead.
I know, it's already on my shelves. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard great reviews for it.
Yeah. So if you like self-development books, you might like the Calm the F Down book. But we do warn you, it's a little bit repetitive. But if you don't mind that, then we'll have a link down below if you want to read it.
It does have a lot of
We'll
good
also link
points
since
in it.
Yes, it does.
It has
does.
good
It has really good
information.
points in it.
But I didn't finish
Yeah,
it,
but-
I'll admit.
Yeah. I skimmed it.
It's
so-
been sat on my coffee table to be read for like 3 weeks. And I got halfway through, and I took it with me when I went and got my hair done, when I got the oil change. So I always had it with me, and I could just never find that need to like pull it out, even if I just found myself
Yeah.
sitting there doing nothing.
Yeah.
It was like once I got halfway through,
So-
I was just like, I'm kind of done.
Yeah, but I mean, check it out if you're interested. But
Yeah.
if you're not like, I'm dying to read this. But we'll have all of our books, including Sense and Sensibility, if I can find the link for it, Calm Enough Down, and then our first one, which was The Tao of Pooh. I will have those linked if you're interested in checking out any of those books. But we thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next week. We took a break. We took a break this past week just because craziness, but...
Yeah,
I
this
think
week
it's
got
on my
away from
birthday,
us.
but- yeah.
Every time we
But
tried to
you're
do
older
it,
now.
or even like whenever me and her would try to work out, it's just, she'd get stuck in traffic, something would happen, it's been a week.
We had to go somewhere. It's been a week, so I have high hopes for this new week.
Me too.
But we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.